Hello, every folks, and good morning. Welcome to another one of these things. So, a quick thing. There was a video that came out recently from Titanium Legman, basically going over just kind of some of the things that they were originally worried about with the game and whatnot else. But there was a specific thing that they mentioned that I thought was really neat. Specifically, it's something that I've been mentioning also for something like Tactics Ogre Reborn, and it definitely seems to be true here as well. And that is going to be the almost kind of Souls game kind of feeling that SRPGs are kind of growing into these days, and it feels fantastic. But specifically, I wanted to talk about routing today and why it feels the way that it feels. Why it is that we're seeing that kind of mood at play here, you know? So, I'm going to go over a few of the challenge runs that I've been doing, just to kind of show why it feels that way, why it's got some of those similarities, and yeah, we'll go from there. So, we start off over here in Orvir Harbor here, right at the very beginning of our intro, and a few things right off the bat. One of the little touches that I really, really love. If you go over there on the top left, you might be wondering, like, oh, you got to go into the menus, you got to look over what they have. No, they immediately tell you right on the sign of the town itself, all the facilities that are already there. There's that little bit of subtle kind of conveyance of what exactly is going on in each one. It's not necessary, but it's nice that it's there. Anyway, so right off the bat, one of the cool things that's just kind of generally useful to have is for every one of these towns, if you go into them, you'll be able to actually see exactly what they're selling, who you can hire, what kind of stuff they have available, what kind of stuff you need to deliver, and things like that. And for those that didn't actually know, whenever you're going and posting somebody as a guard in a location after you've already gone and set it up, you can actually gain all of the materials from that location automatically. So for example, if we go over here, like we travel over to this location, you know how these things are constantly respawning? Like right over here, we go and we dig a little bit, and we go ahead and we get some Corvia herbs, right? So if we went ahead and actually posted somebody over here, which I didn't because this was one of the speedrun files, but if you station a guard here, they will automatically collect all this stuff for you. Obviously, this is something the game tells you, but it's something that I feel like most of us just end up kind of glossing over and not really looking at. But anyways, they'll end up going and just automatically depositing all that stuff for you, on top of actually boosting their rapport for staying there. But with that being said, we're here to talk about routing, so let's get into it here. So the first one of these kind of weapon-specific runs that I did was a spear-only challenge, where I was just curious to see how exactly that would hold up in a game like this. See, whenever doing this for even something like Tactics Ogre, there were often those moments where it felt like, yeah, there's no way that this game was designed with this in mind, because this stuff just, you know, was having a lot of difficulties in this section and that section, etc. Like, for example, Tactics Ogre PSP, there were those moments when I was doing Spear only, when it just sort of turned into, okay, there's just a big old glut here where there's just nothing available. I'm just stuck with my poison spears doing poison damage against everything. I mean, this was less so in the Reborn version, but still, you could tell that there were those moments. Or if you tried to do this in Fire Emblem, I mean, there's probably easier ways to give yourself a migraine, but that being said, let's look at this right here. Right off the bat, what's the main issue that a lot of spear units are going to run into in the very beginning of the game? They have no physical way to hit scouts a lot of the time because you don't have numbers yet. You don't have you don't exactly have groups after groups going after each other. You don't even have access to support abilities yet. So one of the first things that spear users get is the Unwavering Spear, which allows them to hit scouts. You go over here, that one item by itself is enough to basically carry this map right here. At which point, you know, you'll get a few extra items. Not specifically anything too amazing for this particular challenge run, but either way, it's something that would be over here. Additionally, once you get over here, if you were running axe only, which, an interesting note here, every weapon type actually has viable options from the very beginning. If you wanted to, for example, run magic only, you have a sword right here that is technically magic. If you wanted to, for example, let's say run bow only, you might be thinking, I don't have an archer yet, how can I do an archer only run? You walk over to this section, you start the map, Rolf's squad, right from the get-go, actually has enough to quickly win this fight within a few seconds. All you gotta do is walk a lane over, talk to him, send him forward, fire one arrow rain, and then have him charge straight into the last boss. His arrow rain does just enough to kill off the support squad that's nearby, and then will allow him to quickly sweep the second squad if you use an empowering. I just love that it's this specific and this tight in terms of making sure that this stuff's available. Again, nobody needs to think about challenge runs. but it's there. Anyway, so yeah, right off the bat, they have that. Now, I'm not wondering, why am I even bothering to mention this map? This is just a completely nothing map. See, when it comes to challenge running, basically this game or any other game, oftentimes there's going to be prerequisites to being able to get the thing off the ground at all. And in the case of this demo, the prerequisite was that you had to have 3 fights completed in order to unlock mercenaries, which then allows you to fill out your party. Until then, you're typically running, 1 or 2 units. So, going back to the spear challenge real quick, they were very quickly able to deal with this one, but this left them in an awkward position where they maybe couldn't deal with some of the other ones. But they were very quickly able to go over to right here to unlock the Angel Shop, because that fight practically wins itself. And so they were able to use our 3 starting spear units. We got our Chloe, we got our Clive, and we got our Hodrick, and then they were just kind of quickly able to march over to the capital. Hodrick's ability allows for the range supports to basically be ignored, and so while it was slow going and there were a lot of items needed to make it through, they did make it through. Like, for example, you can actually pick up a lot of hollowed corn ashes all throughout here. Chloe is surprisingly good at finding hollowed corn ash everywhere. She is just your corn dealer, I don't know why. But anyway, there's a lot of those all over the place. And so this ended up unlocking up mercenaries, which then ended up unlocking basically the option to actually go do this whole area. What's interesting is that you can take those fights in any order. Like on another speedrun, I ended up going up north here and dealing with the wizards and such over in this direction. Which then allowed for getting access to those magic supports early, which was pretty darn fun. Actually, that's why I was considering that magic sword as part of the thing for the magic only run. Because technically speaking, all you need is to have, is to have Joseph with that magic sword, and suddenly he's able to unlock wizards for you. So, technically speaking, he is using magic damage, so it counts. Anyway, so, either way. So far, we've got magic only, we've got ranged only that's able to have options, we've got spear only that's able to have options. I mean, sword guys, this should be a given, but like, even looking at sword stuff, we got stuff like a blood sword available right from the very beginning over here on one of the first islands that you can visit. If you, for example, take Lex, you give him the Sanguine Blade, you go and give him one of the red bonus necklaces, as well as a Azor shield. That guy is able to not only cover his team, but he's also able to double attack, getting his health back, which gives you a very, very nice thing of a unit that can kind of accidentally get a bunch of wins. Now, this was on the PS4 version, so I don't have it right here. But basically, what the funny discovery there was, I was trying to do sword only. I wasn't expecting there to be much of a challenge, but still wound up finding the situation where this one team was suddenly getting win after win, but they weren't making any progress. And I took a look at the team. The other 2 guys with Lex were dead. It's just him technically winning over and over because getting your health back counts as healing. It was so dumb, but it worked anyway. And hell, for that matter, if you were going back to that spear run right here, we got conveyable great shields giving you extra priority, allowing these guys to potentially get an edge over other hoplites, for example. So again, another nice little moment if, for example, you're going into the swamp and looking to go get those. Or, for example, there are folks wondering what would happen if there was any equivalent to the rune sword for other weapons, and we know of at least the rune spear, where in this case you have, let's say, Chloe, right? Basic, generic soldier, whatever. But their main claim to fame is that they can use 2 accessory slots. So, Rune Spear, Sorcerer Medallion, Warrior Medallion. They are running permanent plus 20%, and that stacks with any other 20% that you can get, and they're technically doing magic damage. They are now an improved version of the Warrior for all intents and purposes. So yeah, you got that over there for anyone that was wondering. And also if you're thinking like, well, I only have 1 True Strike Spear, surely, there aren't any more. There actually is another one right over here someplace. Over here in, Nordplage, there's a second Unwavering. So all of these weapons are not necessarily unique either. That you do get more as you carry along. And it's just this perfect smattering of exactly some kind of weird progress in every direction that you go that feels incredible. Like, it really feels extremely Souls-esque to be able to do this kind of stuff. Like, frankly, you get such a massive bonus for taking Barbatimo, especially if you take it early. You get access to priority items through the Dove's Plume, Azor Crest Shield plus Pursuance Bracelet. Like this effectively allows you to have one unit and multiply their attacks several times over, because having access to that shield. Sorry, throat doing funny throat stuff as it does. Boy. But yeah, so the Azure Crest shield is just like the Tower Shield variant that you probably have, but it's going to give you an extra blue point. The Pursuance Bracelet gives you access to Pursuit, which is the same thing that Joseph's been using this whole time. So now you have two potential pursuits. Now, they're not going to trigger back to back. Instead, they have to trigger on different enemies. So potentially you have this, you have that unit with... you have that unit going and doing their normal attacks, and then they end up following up multiple times over the course of that fight. It's an insane value for what you're getting there. Or, for example, stuff like the Dove Plume. If you're going and combining it with going back to that Spear Challenge there, we've got another one of my favorites that came out of that challenge run here, which was the Surging Short Spear, that allows a spear user to suddenly be a shaman, taking away one of those AP before anything else. So if you get a Dove's Plume, you put it on somebody like, let's say, Basic Soldier, Surging Short Spear, Dove's Plume, and then you also get a... let's say one of your red boosting necklaces, now potentially you're getting rid of two attacks before anything even happens. Like, that's just value on value right there. And potentially, you know, if that's not fast enough, you again still have access to the Angel Shop for even more oddly specific stuff. And the Angel Shop is brilliant. This feels to me like Bloodborne's Insight Shop in many ways, where there's just a lot of items that are very specific that you oftentimes get in limited quantities or unique quantities or whatever else. Like the Angel Plume is insanely good for improving your speed this early. Carnelian Pendant, you can, if you end up going and killing the Archer, you can get the Carnelian pretty much immediately by this point. So that's pretty massive right there. But for a lot of these challenge runs, I found myself relying on Hallowed Cornash for getting past a lot of tougher areas through tricks like the Wild Rush thing or the Wild Swing kind of situation, just allowing you to cheese abilities or to go reset timers if you're using units that are too slow. It feels great, man. It feels so good that they actually managed to nail that. They managed to nail the perfect mix of having your tactics ogres and having your ogre battles and having your bloodborns at the same time. And yes, Fire Emblem's in there too. I haven't forgotten about Fire Emblem. It just kind of has fallen off my radar for a good number of years. Because every time it comes up with a new entry, they're like, hey, check it out, get more dating simulator. Like, no, make strategy more interesting, though. I don't care about your plots that haven't made sense in decades. Anyway, but yeah, I just love that every new shop is just a new opportunity for new builds and weirdly specific things. And even if you lose track of what's where, you can always just go back to the menu and find it there, but you're still making the effort to go back. You're still getting the benefit of clearing that new area and finding new zones, you know, posting people over there. Potentially you might be limited in how much free materials you're getting out of your zones, depending on how many characters you've got in your team. I love how that was actually one of those big worries people had going into this whole thing. That you'd end up having a lack of roster or whatever else, but no, that your roster is always still available. And we're not even getting into all the side quest stuff and whatever else that we've seen so far, so... I mean, as far as routing, man, as far as routing runs for this, it is going to be a blast. I have a feeling we're, like, outside of maybe that first section, where you've only got a handful of places to go, like, for anyone that's ever done, you know, runs of Ogre Battle back on the SNES, that feeling of just like the world's your oyster, you go in any direction, you get whatever the hell you want, you know, you go for all those bonuses that you specifically have a use for. It's such an exciting thing to see, you know? It's just really exciting to see. Anyway, so yeah. Hope y'all got your pre-orders in, because it's almost go time. We're almost there. It's about that time. Man. And yeah, ultimately, you know, it's funny, as far as the recording situation goes, I kept going back and forth over what the best way to go about this thing was. In the most oddly specific thing possible, this is gonna be the strangest PSA you've ever heard. But did you know that the best way to actually potentially play this, the most portable way to play this, is technically, did you know that while you can't use remote play on your phone, like to connect to a PS4, I probably should have just made it its own video, but no one's ever going to watch that. But, and I'm not going to use this to record, but, actually, no, I think I am going to make that its own video. You know what? That is going to be its own video because there's enough differences about the PS4 version to warrant being its own thing. Okay, whatever. Anyway, routing for this thing is going to be amazing. I know I'm looking forward to the open world and all of these other features. Yes, we have just spent 15 minutes looking at a map. Don't judge me. I'm excited. I will see you soon. Bye.